My own stepson smiled while the waiter placed a four-figure bill in front of me, and in that moment I realized the invitation was never about Christmas. I did not raise my voice. I did not ask questions. I did not embarrass him. I simply looked at the paper, then at his face, and understood something very clearly. This was not a mistake. This was a plan. He sat there, relaxed, leaning back in his chair like a man who had just finished a good meal. His phone was in his hand. His jacket was still on. He hadn't even reached for his wallet. Across from me, the table was filled with empty plates, half-finished wine glasses, and the remains of a dinner I never asked for. The waiter waited. The silence was heavy. My stepson did not look up. That was the first betrayal. And it was not the last. I had known him since he was in his early 20s. We were never close, but we were polite, respectful, distant in that quiet way people are when they tolerate each other for the sake of someone else. His mother and I married later in life. We both had our histories, our habits, our scars. I did not try to replace his father. I did not try to be his friend. I stayed in my lane, and I thought he did the same. I was wrong. The message came 3 days before Christmas. Hey, we're doing a special dinner this year. Something elegant. It would mean a lot if you came. No emojis. No warmth. Just a clean sentence. It surprised me. We were not the type to do special. We were the type to do polite. Still, I said yes. Because when a young man invites you, you accept. That's how I was raised. The restaurant was one of those places where the lights are low and the prices are high. White tablecloths. Soft music. People speaking in careful voices. The kind of place where you check the menu before you sit. He was already there when I arrived. He stood, smiled, hugged me once. It felt rehearsed, but I ignored it. Because I didn't come to judge. I came to share a meal. We talked about nothing. Work, weather, traffic. He asked about my health. I told him I was fine. He nodded, but his eyes didn't stay. They moved. Always moving. That should have warned me. When the waiter came, he ordered confidently. Not just for himself. For the table. Wine. Starters. Specials. He did not ask what I wanted. He assumed. I should have stopped him. I didn't. Because sometimes you trust the wrong silence. As the food arrived, I realized something. This was not a dinner. This was a performance. He laughed louder. He spoke faster. He checked his phone between bites. Like a man waiting for a moment. And when the last plate was cleared, he finally leaned back. And smiled. That's when the waiter came. Not with dessert. With the bill. He placed it gently in the center. And my stepson looked at me. Finally. Directly. Come. Whenever you're ready, he said. No joke. No explanation. Just that. I looked at the total. I won't repeat the number. But it was not a family number. It was a statement. I didn't react. I didn't blink. I simply folded my hands and waited. Because at my age, you learn something important. When someone shows you who they are, you don't interrupt them. You observe. He shifted in his seat. Checked his phone again. Pretended to read a message. The waiter cleared his throat. I reached into my pocket. Slowly. Carefully. And I paid. Not because I was weak. But because I was curious. And curiosity is dangerous. We stood. He hugged me again. This time tighter. Thanks, he said. Really appreciate it. No shame. No hesitation. Just comfort. That was the second betrayal. In the parking lot, I sat in my car for a long time. I didn't start the engine. I didn't touch the radio. I just stared. Because something inside me had shifted. Quietly. Cleanly. Like a switch. You see, I've been underestimated my whole life. People look at calm and think it means soft. They hear silence and assume weakness. They see age and forget experience. That mistake has paid my lessons many times. That night, I went home and said nothing. His mother asked how dinner was. I smiled. "Nice place," I said. That was all. I didn't sleep. Not because I was angry. Because I was thinking. And when I think, things change. He thought it was about money. He thought it was about convenience. He thought he could test me. What he didn't understand was something very simple. I never fight. I wait. Because real revenge is not loud. It doesn't shout. It doesn't threaten. It builds. Quietly. Patiently. And he had just given me permission. By morning, I had a plan. Not a cruel one. Not a destructive one. A fair one. Because the best revenge is letting people face themselves. I didn't call him. I didn't message. I didn't hint. I let him enjoy his win. Confidence makes people careless. And careless people reveal everything. 2 days later, I ran into someone who knew him. By accident. Or maybe not. We spoke. Briefly. Casually. And in that small conversation, a door opened. He didn't know it yet. But his stage was set. I went home. Made coffee. Sat at the table. And smiled. Because the story was no longer about a bill. It was about respect. And respect, once broken, always collects interest. That was the night I stopped being his guest. And became his lesson. He didn't just make me pay that bill. He wanted me to feel small while doing it. I didn't confront him the next day. I didn't mention the restaurant. I didn't even change my tone. Because when a man thinks he got away with something, he relaxes. And relaxed people reveal their true shape. His mother noticed nothing. She was busy with decorations, gift lists, small plans for the holiday. She had that quiet excitement people get when they believe their family is finally at peace. I didn't correct her. Peace built on illusion is fragile. It breaks on its own. My stepson came over 2 days later. Not to see me. To see his mother. He walked in like nothing had happened. No guilt. No hesitation. Just comfort. That told me everything. He sat on the couch, scrolling his phone. His jacket still on. Shoes not removed. Like a guest. Not like family. "Dinner went well?" his mother asked, smiling. He nodded. "Yeah. Real nice place." Then he looked at me. Just for a second. Long enough to check. I nodded back. "Very nice," I said. That was all. Inside, something settled. Not anger. Clarity. You see, I grew up watching men who talked too much. They argued. They demanded. They warned. And they always lost. Because power never announces itself. It moves quietly. He didn't know that about me. He saw an older man. Polite. He didn't see the years. The rooms I've sat in. The decisions I've made. The people who once underestimated me. That was his first mistake. He stayed for 20 minutes. Barely spoke to me. Barely looked at me. Then he stood. "Heading out," he said. His mother hugged him. He didn't hug me. He nodded, like you do to a neighbor, and walked out. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't about money. This was about position. He was testing where I stood, and he believed he had placed me beneath him. I cleaned the kitchen that night. Slowly. Methodically. The way I do when I'm thinking. And as I wiped the counter, I remembered something. A conversation from months ago. A complaint. A small frustration he'd shared without realizing its value. At the time, I ignored it. Now, I stored it. People reveal their weaknesses casually. They complain. They joke. They vent. And they forget that listeners remember. He had talked about his work, about a deal, about pressure, about needing things to go smoothly. At the time, it sounded like noise. Now, it sounded like leverage. I didn't move fast. I never do. Fast is sloppy. And sloppy is visible. The next morning, I called an old contact. Not a friend. A connection. Someone who owes me nothing and respects me anyway. We spoke for 4 minutes. That was all it took. By the end of the call, I knew 2 things. 1, my stepson was not as secure as he pretended. 2, he was standing on something thin. That's the danger of arrogance. It builds its house on glass. I went back to my day. Work. Errands. Normal things. Because revenge that disrupts your life is not revenge. It's chaos. That evening, his mother asked if I wanted to invite him for Christmas morning. I paused. Not long. Just enough. Of course, I said. She smiled. Happy. Relieved. She thought we were bonding. I let her. He arrived the next day. Late. No apology. Just presents. He brought a small gift for his mother. Nothing for me. I noticed. I didn't comment. We sat. We talked. He controlled the space. The volume. The direction. He spoke over me once. I let him. He corrected me once. I thanked him. That confused him. Confidence expects resistance. When it doesn't get it, it hesitates. He kept looking at me. Not aggressively. Curiously. Like a man trying to read a room that suddenly feels unfamiliar. At one point, he joked about the restaurant. Not directly. In a sideways way. Guess fancy places are becoming the new normal, he said, smiling. I nodded. Only when someone's paying, I replied. Softly. He laughed. Too quickly. That was the first crack. After he left, his mother said, he seems more relaxed around you now. I didn't answer. Because I knew something she didn't. Relaxation before impact is common. That night, I reviewed what I knew. Not emotionally. Strategically. His job. His situation. His pressure points. And most importantly, his pride. Pride is louder than logic. And easier to guide. I didn't want to hurt him. I wanted to teach him. There's a difference. The next step had to be invisible. Something he wouldn't connect. Something he would blame on bad luck. Because when people blame luck, they don't look for cause. 2 days later, I ran into him again. At the store. By coincidence. Or maybe timing. He looked surprised. Then pleased. Hey, he said. I smiled. Hey. We spoke. Briefly. Small talk. Then I said something simple. Something harmless. Something he wouldn't notice. But something that would move him. And he took the bait. Without knowing it. That's the thing about men who think they are clever. They don't see traps. They see opportunities. As we parted, he said, we should do dinner again sometime. I nodded. Your place next time, I said. He laughed. Yeah, maybe. But his eyes shifted, and I knew. He wouldn't. Good. I drove home. Focused. Because now the game was moving. And he was already on the board. He still thought he'd won. He still thought the bill was the story. He didn't know the bill was just the invitation. By the time he realizes, it won't be about money. It will be about dignity. And dignity, once taken, always wants company. He thought I was the quiet man in the corner. He didn't realize I was studying him. People think silence means agreement. It doesn't. Sometimes it means assessment. And I was assessing him. Every movement. Every tone. Every pause. He was not cruel. That would have been easy. He was something more dangerous. Entitled. Entitlement is subtle. It doesn't shout. It assumes. It doesn't ask. It expects. And it never thinks it owes. He grew up with comfort, not wealth, but ease. Doors opened. Mistakes forgiven. Consequences softened. His mother protected him. His father excused him. And the world adjusted. Then I arrived. Quiet. Older. Unimpressive to him. And in his mind, that meant irrelevant. He never asked what I did for a living. Not once. He never asked where I came from. He didn't need to. He had already decided who I was. That was his second mistake. I noticed how he spoke to servers. Polite, but not grateful. I noticed how he interrupted. Not rudely. Just automatically. Like he deserved the space. He wasn't a bad man. Just a careless one. And careless men hurt people without noticing. At Christmas dinner, he told a story about work. About a negotiation. About how he handled someone. He smiled while telling it. Proud. Everyone laughed. I watched. He enjoyed control. Not power. Control. The small kind. The kind that makes you feel important without responsibility. That's why the bill mattered. Not the money. The message. I replayed that night in my head. Not emotionally. Precisely. The timing. The smile. The way he leaned back. He had rehearsed it. That meant intent. You don't rehearse accidents. So I asked myself a question. Not, why did he do it? But, why did he think he could? The answer was simple. Because no one ever stopped him. His mother would never confront him. His friends wouldn't. And strangers didn't matter. So the world had taught him something dangerous. That his comfort was more important than other people's dignity. That's not cruelty. That's ignorance. And ignorance requires education. I wasn't going to embarrass him. I wasn't going to shout. I wasn't going to expose him. Those are cheap victories. I wanted something lasting. Something internal. Something that would sit with him. A lesson he would carry. A few days later, his mother mentioned he was under stress. Work stuff, she said. He's trying to close something big. I nodded. Casually. As if I didn't already know. She went on about how hard he was working. How tired he looked. How much pressure he was under. She was worried. I listened. And I thought, pressure reveals character. That night, I reviewed everything again. Not on paper. In my head. Because real plans don't need notes. They need patience. He needed something. Not money. Not help. Something else. And I knew what it was. Recognition. Men like him don't want support. They want validation. They want someone to see them. To admire. To respect. And he thought I didn't. So I changed that. Quietly. The next time we spoke, I asked him about his work. Genuinely. Not prying. Not impressed. Interested. He straightened. His voice changed. He explained. Longer than necessary. More detail than needed. I listened. Nodded. Asked one careful question. He smiled. That was the opening. He started calling. Not often. But occasionally. Asking opinions. Sharing updates. He thought he was being smart. Networking. He didn't realize he was being mapped. People reveal their plans when they feel respected. They reveal their weaknesses when they feel safe. And I gave him both. Not because I liked him. Because I was guiding him. One afternoon, he said something. A small sentence. A careless one. About needing something to go through. Because if it didn't, things would get uncomfortable. I didn't react. But I remembered. That night, I slept well. Because now I knew. Where, when, and how. He had built a situation. And I was simply going to let it play out. with a small adjustment. The next part was timing. Always timing. I didn't rush. I waited. Because impatience is loud. And I was quiet. When people think nothing is happening, everything is happening. I started being more present. At home. At dinners. At conversations. Not intrusive. Visible. He noticed. His tone softened. He started including me. Not out of kindness. Out of convenience. Good. That's how influence grows. Not by force. By access. He invited me to something. A small gathering. I accepted. Listened. Observed. And learned. By the end of that evening, I knew more than he realized. And he trusted me more than he should. Trust is not given. It's borrowed. And he had overdrawn. When I left, he clapped my shoulder. "Good seeing you," he said. Like we were equals. I smiled. Because he still didn't understand. This was never about being equal. It was about balance. And balance was coming. I drove home in silence. Not thinking. Not replaying. Just aware. Because the moment had shifted. The game had moved from observation to positioning. And he was already standing where I needed him. He thought he had tested me. He didn't realize he had revealed himself. And in that space between his confidence and my calm, something very precise was forming. Not revenge. Correction. Because some people don't need punishment. They need perspective. And I was about to give him his. He used my silence as permission, and that was when the real damage began. When people think you won't react, they go further. Not louder. Not crueler. More careless. And carelessness always exposes something. He started showing up more. Not to see me. To use the space. Our living room became his waiting room. Our kitchen became his office. He took calls. Answered emails. Spoke in half-phrases like someone important. His mother didn't mind. She was proud. I noticed. He never asked if it was okay. He assumed. That's how entitlement grows. Not in leaps. In permissions. He would sit at the table, laptop open, coffee in hand, speaking to people I'd never met, about things I was never invited into. I didn't interrupt. I didn't comment. I observed. One morning, he snapped his fingers. Not at me. At the counter. "Any coffee left?" he asked. Not rude. Not polite. Just expecting. I poured. And watched his reaction. He didn't thank me. He nodded. That told me more than words. People who are grateful say thank you. People who feel owed say nothing. His mother noticed my silence once. "Everything okay?" she asked later. I smiled. Of course. That was the truth. Because everything was exactly where I needed it. He started sharing more. Not because he trusted me. Because he forgot I was there. Men like him don't talk to people. They talk around them. And that's when they reveal the most. He spoke about deadlines. About pressure. About people who were in the way. That phrase stood out. In the way. Not complicated. Not difficult. In the way. That's how he saw obstacles. Not as humans. As objects. I listened. I learned. And I placed each detail quietly. Like pieces on a board. One afternoon, he complained about someone. A colleague. A partner. I didn't ask which. I didn't need to. The tone was enough. Resentment. Impatience. He wanted something. And someone was slowing him down. That's when I understood something important. This wasn't a one-time behavior. The restaurant wasn't an exception. It was a pattern. And patterns don't change unless interrupted. He came over again 2 days later. Late. As usual. He dropped his bag by the door. Saturday. And immediately started talking. About how tired he was. How people didn't understand his schedule. How nobody appreciated his effort. Not once did he ask how I was. Not once. His mother did. She always did. But he never did. That's when I realized. He didn't see me. Not as a person. As furniture. Furniture doesn't have feelings. Furniture serves. Furniture stays quiet. And I had been very quiet. So I decided to speak. Not much. Just enough. How's that deal going? I asked. He paused. Looked at me. Then smiled. Good. Very good. But his voice shifted. Just slightly. Because people lie to protect pride. Not truth. I nodded. Good, I said. And went back to my book. That confused him. He expected interest. Admiration. Maybe advice. He got nothing. People who crave recognition hate neutrality. He tried again later. Mentioned it again. This time with detail. He wanted me to ask. I didn't. By the time he left, he was unsettled. I could feel it. He hadn't gotten what he wanted. Good. The next week, his mother asked if we could help him with something. Just small, she said. Temporary. I asked what. She hesitated. Some paperwork, she said. He's overwhelmed. I agreed. Of course. Because the door he needed was the one I wanted open. He came over with a folder. Not small. Not simple. He sat, spread papers across the table, and sighed. Dramatically. Appreciate this, he said. To his mother. Not to me. I began reading. Slowly. Carefully. And in those pages, I saw things. Not wrong. Not illegal. But exposed. He didn't realize how much he'd revealed. Because he assumed I wouldn't understand. That was his third mistake. You don't live my life and not understand systems. Power. Process. Pressure. I helped. Quietly. Accurately. He was impressed. He didn't say it. But I saw it. People show respect in their posture. Not their words. He sat straighter. Listened. Waited. That shift mattered. Because now he was paying attention. By the end, he said, "Didn't know you were into this kind of stuff." I smiled. People are often more than they appear. He laughed, not knowing the weight of that sentence. From that day, things changed. Slightly, but enough. He started asking, not assuming. He started listening, not speaking. He still didn't respect me, but he acknowledged me, and that was the beginning. I didn't enjoy it. I used it. Because access is everything. He started sharing more. Details. Concerns. Frustrations. And I let him. Because when someone vents, they open. He told me about someone blocking him. About pressure from above. About needing things to move faster. I nodded. Offered nothing. That unsettled him. Again. He wanted solutions. I gave silence. Silence makes people talk. And he did. By the time he left that night, I knew exactly where he was vulnerable. And he had no idea I was even watching. That's the danger of underestimation. It gives the other person freedom. I sat at the table after they went to bed. Alone. Quiet. And I thought about the bill. Not the number. The intent. He had tested me. And now, unknowingly, he was depending on me. That's how power shifts. Not dramatically. Gradually. He thought he was using me. He didn't realize he was standing on me. And I don't move. But when I do, people fall. He trusted me just enough to become careless, and carelessness is always expensive. Once a man starts leaning on you, he forgets to watch you. That's not weakness. That's habit. And habits reveal patterns. He began calling in the evenings. Not often. But regularly. Quick questions. Small clarifications. Things he could have handled himself. But he didn't. Because now I was convenient. Convenience is a dangerous position. It creates dependence without respect. He'd say, "Just wanted your take on something." Not advice. Not help. Your take. As if it was casual. As if it didn't matter. But he waited for my answers. Listened. Adjusted. And each time, he trusted a little more. Not because I was smarter. Because I was calm. And calm feels safe. He spoke about pressure from above. About timelines. About people expecting results. He didn't say names. He didn't need to. Tone reveals hierarchy. There was someone above him. And someone beside him. And someone below him. And he was trying to impress one, outmaneuver the other, and dominate the third. That's not leadership. That's insecurity in a suit. He complained about meetings. About delays. About politics. That word came up often. Politics. It's what people say when they can't control something. He wanted control. Badly. One evening, he showed up unannounced. Bag in hand. Phone pressed to his ear. He waved as he walked in. Didn't stop talking. Didn't lower his voice. Didn't ask. He sat at the table and continued his call. Talking about figures. Deadlines. Consequences. I sat across from him. Silent. Invisible. He didn't even notice. That's the kind of man he was. He didn't see people. He saw space. After the call, he exhaled. Hard. Long day, he said. I nodded. Seems like it. He looked at me. Studied. Then said, "You ever deal with this kind of pressure?" I paused. Not for drama. For honesty. Different kind, I said. He smiled. Like he didn't believe me. That was his fourth mistake. He started asking about my past. Not directly. Sideways. What I used to do. Where I worked. What I handled. I gave small answers. Enough. Not everything. Men like him think information is power. They don't realize restraint is. He shared more. About how close he was. About how if this worked, things would change. Position. Status. Freedom. I listened. And inside, I smiled. Because now I knew the stakes. When someone tells you what they're afraid of losing, they've shown you what controls them. He didn't want money. He wanted recognition. He wanted to be seen. He wanted to be untouchable. Those are fragile desires. A few days later, his mother mentioned he'd been stressed. Not sleeping, she said. Always on his phone. I nodded. As if concerned. As if surprised. He came over that night. Later than usual. Quieter. More controlled. He sat. Didn't speak at first. That was new. Finally, he said, "Things are complicated." I waited. He continued. People always do. He spoke about obstacles. About resistance. About someone not cooperating. He didn't say who. He didn't have to. The frustration was enough. He was hitting a wall. And walls make men reckless. He asked, "What would you do?" Not joking. Not casual. Direct. I looked at him. Steady. Depends what you're willing to lose, I said. He laughed. Uncomfortable. Yeah, he said. But his eyes stayed on me. Because he wanted an answer. I didn't give one. Silence is not empty. It's demanding. He filled it. He started talking faster. Explaining. Justifying. Rationalizing. And in doing so, he revealed more than he intended. By the time he stopped, I knew exactly what was blocking him. And more importantly, that name stayed in my head. I didn't repeat it. I didn't acknowledge it. I simply nodded. He exhaled, relieved, because he thought he had unburdened himself. He didn't realize he had handed me a key. After he left, his mother said, "I'm glad you two are talking more." I smiled. So am I. And I meant it. Because now the distance was gone. And distance is safety. Closeness is vulnerability. He began trusting my reactions, reading my face, waiting for my nod. That's when I knew. He was hooked. Not emotionally. Strategically. He wanted approval. And I controlled it. The next time he complained, I nodded once. Slow. Thoughtful. He relaxed. People don't need solutions. They need validation. And I gave it. Just enough. Not to help him. To guide him. He began moving. Making decisions. Adjusting behavior. Based on what he thought I believed. That's influence. Not authority. He didn't know I was shaping his path. He thought he was choosing it. And that's the beauty of quiet power. It never announces itself. I never mentioned the bill. Not once. I never brought up the restaurant. Not once. Because if I had, he would have defended. Justified. Dismissed. And defense builds walls. I wanted doors. So I let him walk. Comfortable. Confident. Unaware. By the end of the week, he was tense. Short-tempered. Impatient. Pressure was building. And pressure creates mistakes. I didn't rush. I waited. Because the best moment is when someone thinks they're close. He was close. He told me, "Once this is done, everything settles." I nodded. "Usually does," I said. He smiled. Relieved. He didn't know that settled means something different to different people. For him, it meant success. For me, it meant balance. And balance was coming. He was so focused on climbing that he never looked down to see what he was standing on. By now, his visits felt normal. That was dangerous. Because normal hides patterns. He would arrive without notice. Not rude. Not polite. Just present. Like the house belonged to him. He'd drop his bag. Check his phone. And start talking. No greeting. No pause. Just pressure. He spoke like a man drowning. Fast. Disconnected. Grabbing at thoughts. I listened. As always. He talked about meetings. About people being difficult. About timelines being unfair. That word again. Unfair. People only say unfair when things stop going their way. He never asked if I had time. He never asked if it was okay. He assumed access. That's not confidence. That's entitlement wearing comfort. One evening, he arrived agitated. Not tired. Agitated. Big difference. He paced. Didn't sit. Phone in hand. Jaw tight. He said, "They're pushing back." I didn't ask who. He continued. "They're questioning things." I nodded. Still didn't ask. He exhaled. Hard. They don't understand the bigger picture. People always say that when they are cornered. He looked at me. Almost pleading. "What do you think?" I took a breath. Slow. Measured. Not for effect. For truth. "I think people push back when they feel used," I said. He froze. Just for a second. Then laughed. Too loud. "Yeah," he said. "Maybe." But his eyes shifted. Because he heard it. Even if he didn't want to. From that moment, he became careful. Not respectful. Careful. That meant something. He stopped bragging. He stopped joking. He started filtering. That told me the pressure was real now. When people filter, they are afraid. He started asking before sitting. Before speaking. Before using the space. Small changes. But meaningful. Respect born of fear is unstable, but useful. He was losing ground, and he knew it. His mother noticed. "He seems different," she said. "Quieter." I nodded. "Pressure," I said. She sighed. "I worry about him." I said nothing, because worry changes nothing. He came over the next day, earlier. Unusual. He waited for me to finish my coffee. That was new. "Can I ask you something?" he said. I looked up. "Of course." He hesitated. That was very new. "How do you handle people who block you?" he asked. Not joking. Not light. Direct. I studied him. Not to intimidate. To understand. "By asking why they're blocking me," I said. He frowned. "I mean when they won't listen." I nodded. "Then I ask what they're afraid of," I said. He blinked. That wasn't what he expected. People like him expect tactics, strategies, moves, not insight. He sat, quiet, processing. Then he said, "Some people just like power." I smiled. Small. "Most people want safety," I said. He didn't respond, because that idea didn't fit his world. In his world, people were tools. He changed the subject, but the shift stayed. He wasn't in control anymore. He was reacting. That's when mistakes happen. 2 days later, he showed up angry. Not stressed. Angry. He slammed his bag down. Didn't sit. Didn't speak. Just stood. Then he said, "They're questioning my numbers." I didn't react. "That's ridiculous," he added. I nodded. "I did everything right," he said. His voice rose. I stayed calm. He noticed. "Don't you think it's unfair?" he asked. I looked at him. Steady. "I think people question what they don't trust," I said. Silence. Heavy. He stared. Then he sat. Slowly. That was the first time I saw doubt in him. Real doubt. Not frustration. Not irritation. Doubt. That's when a man becomes dangerous. To himself. He started talking. Fast. Defensive. Explaining. Justifying. Rewriting. I listened. As always. But inside I knew. He was losing control. He was trying to convince me. Which meant he was no longer convincing himself. That night, he didn't stay long. He left abruptly. No goodbye. His mother looked concerned. "He didn't seem okay," she said. "He's under pressure," I replied. True. But incomplete. Pressure reveals what structure hides. He was cracking. The next few days, he didn't come by. That was unusual. No calls. No messages. Silence. That told me something. He was either very busy or very worried. Both are useful. When he finally called, his voice was tight. Controlled. Too controlled. "Can we talk?" he asked. Not casually. Not confident. "Of course," I said. He arrived that evening. Slower. Careful. He sat. Hands together. He looked at me. Longer than usual. "I might need your help," he said. There it was. Not advice. Not thoughts. Help. I didn't answer immediately. Silence again. He shifted. Uncomfortable. "I mean, just perspective," he corrected. I nodded. "About what?" I asked. He hesitated, then spoke. And in that moment I knew. Everything. Not just what he was doing, but what he had done, and what he was afraid of being seen. He had crossed lines. Not illegal, but not clean. And he was scared. Fear changes people. It makes them careless. It makes them honest. It makes them dependent. And he was all three. I listened. Without reaction. Without judgment. without interruption. By the time he finished, his shoulders had dropped. His voice was lower. His eyes didn't meet mine. He waited for my response. I took a breath. Slow. Measured. "I think you should prepare for questions," I said. He frowned. "What kind?" "Real ones," I replied. He swallowed. That told me everything. Because when someone swallows, they know. He didn't argue. He didn't laugh. He didn't dismiss. He nodded. And in that nod, I saw it. He knew. He just didn't know how close. I watched him leave. Quieter than he arrived. Slower. Heavier. And I smiled. Not because I enjoyed it. Because the balance was shifting. He had taken from me dignity, respect. Now the world was taking from him certainty, control. And I didn't have to do anything. I just had to let him walk. He didn't know it yet, but every door he was forcing open was about to close on him. When a man starts losing control, he grabs harder. That's not strength. That's panic disguised as confidence. And he was panicking. He stopped calling. Not because he didn't need me. Because he was trying to look strong. Strength, to him, meant isolation. He came over 3 days later. Unannounced. Again. But this time, he stood at the door longer before knocking. That pause mattered. When I opened, he forced a smile. Too tight. Too practiced. "Hey," he said. Not warm. Not cold. Careful. He stepped in. Looked around. As if the room might judge him. We sat. He didn't speak at first. Just breathed. Shallow. Finally, he said, "Things are moving." I nodded. "Good," I replied. He waited. For praise. For relief. For something. I gave him nothing. Silence again. He cleared his throat. "They're reviewing everything," he added. "Usually do," I said. That unsettled him. People like him expect reassurance. He leaned forward. "Do you think they'll find anything?" he asked. Not joking. Not casual. Real. I looked at him. Steady. "That depends what's there," I said. He froze. That moment. That pause. That was fear. He laughed. Quick. Sharp. Unconvincing. "Yeah, well, everything's clean." I nodded. Good. But his eyes stayed on me. Searching. He was looking for comfort. He didn't get it. He started talking faster. About timelines. About expectations. About how unfair the scrutiny was. I listened. When he finished, I said, "Pressure does that." He blinked. "Does what?" "Makes people nervous," I replied. He didn't answer. He stood. Suddenly. Abrupt. "I should go," he said. I nodded. He hesitated. At the door. Then he said, "You ever regret not pushing back?" That was a strange question. I looked at him. Carefully. "Only when I forget why I'm waiting," I said. He frowned. Didn't understand. He left. And I knew. He was unraveling. The next day, his mother received a call. Her face changed. Color drained. Hands tightened. She looked at me. Concerned. "Something's wrong at his work," she said. I nodded. As if surprised. She tried calling him. No answer. She waited. Checked her phone. Paced. I watched. Silent. He came late that night. No greeting. No smile. No eye contact. He walked in like a man carrying weight. He sat. Head in his hands. His mother rushed to him. "What's going on?" she asked. He didn't answer. I stayed seated. Quiet. She touched his arm. He flinched. "They're investigating," he said. Barely audible. Her face froze. "Investigating what?" she asked. He didn't answer. That silence was loud. I spoke. Not to him. To her. Give him a minute, I said. He looked at me. Surprised. Grateful. Afraid. She nodded. Stepped back. He stayed still. Breathing shallow. After a while he said, "They think something's off." I didn't react. "About what?" she asked. He shook his head. "I don't know." That was a lie. He knew. But he didn't want to say it. He stood. Suddenly, "I'm going to lie down," he said, and walked away. His mother looked at me, panicked. "What's happening?" she whispered. I met her eyes. "Come." "Pressure," I said. "True." But incomplete. He stayed the night. First time in months. He didn't eat. Didn't talk. Didn't move. The house felt different. Heavier. The next morning, he left early. No goodbye. His mother was worried. I was not. Because worry clouds. Clarity guides. He didn't call for 2 days. That was unusual. On the third day, he texted. Short, sharp. "Can we talk?" I replied. Of course. He arrived that evening. Not rushed. Not late. Controlled. He sat. Straight. Hands on knees. He looked at me. Direct. "They're questioning me," he said. I nodded. "They think I manipulated some numbers," he added. I didn't react. He waited. "They're wrong," he said. I met his eyes. "Are they?" I asked. That was risky, but necessary. He inhaled. Hard. "They don't understand the situation," he said. I nodded. "Situations don't confuse," I replied. "People do." He looked away. That told me something. He was cornered. He started explaining. Fast. Defensive. Detailed. I listened. Not interrupting. Not reacting. And in his words, I heard it. The bending. The shortcuts. The justifications. Not crimes. Not disasters. But choices. Choices made under pressure. Choices that leave marks. When he finished, he looked at me. Waiting. For support. For reassurance. For alignment. I gave him truth. "I think you should be careful," I said. He frowned. "I am careful." I nodded. "Careful is different when someone's watching," I replied. Silence. He swallowed. That was fear again. His mother entered. Concerned. "Everything okay?" she asked. He forced a smile. "Yeah," he said. I didn't correct him. He left shortly after. Not angry. Not relieved. Confused. Confusion is good. It slows people. And he needed slowing. Because the next phase was coming. And he wasn't ready. He thought this was a problem. He didn't know it was a lesson. And lessons don't warn. They arrive. The day they called him into that room, he finally understood what it feels like to be powerless. He didn't tell us at first. That's how men handle fear. They hide it. But fear has habits. It shows up in posture, in tone, in silence. And he was silent. He stopped coming over. Not because he was busy. Because he was ashamed. His mother noticed. "Have you heard from him?" she asked. I shook my head. Not today. That was true. She called him. No answer. She texted. No reply. She worried. I watched. The next morning, he finally showed up. Early. Too early. His face was pale. His eyes tired. His movements stiff. He didn't greet. Didn't smile. Didn't even sit at first. He stood in the doorway like a man waiting for judgment. "Morning," I said. He nodded. Barely. His mother rushed to him. "Are you okay?" she asked. He hesitated, then said, "They called me in." Her face changed. "Called you in for what?" she asked. He looked at me, just for a second, then back to her. "Meeting," he said. That wasn't an answer. He sat, slow, heavy. "They went through my work," he added. She sat beside him, concerned. "What did they say?" she asked. He exhaled, long. "They said there are questions." Questions. Such a small word. Such a heavy one. I stayed quiet. Because silence makes people fill gaps. "They think I push things," he said. "Too fast." She looked confused. "Is that bad?" she asked. He didn't answer. That silence again. I leaned back. Not to relax. To listen. "They think I pressured someone," he continued. His voice dropped. "They think I crossed lines." There it was. His mother gasped. "Would you do that?" she asked. He looked at the floor. "I did what I had to," he said. "Not no. Not never. I did what I had to." That's not defense. That's justification. I watched him. Carefully. He was shrinking. Not physically. Internally. That's what pressure does. "They suspended me," he said. The word landed. Heavy. His mother froze. "Suspended?" she whispered. He nodded. "Temporarily," he added. People always add that, as if it softens the blow. She looked at me, eyes wide. "What does that mean?" she asked. I answered. "Come." "It means they're deciding," I said. He flinched. Because that was the truth. Deciding is worse than judging. Judgment is final. Deciding is torture. He rubbed his face, hands shaking. "I didn't do anything wrong," he said. But his voice lacked strength. Because even he didn't believe it. His mother stood, paced, hands on her head. "How could this happen?" she asked. He didn't answer. I stayed still. She looked at me, almost pleading. "Do you think he'll be okay?" she asked. I chose my words. Carefully. "I think honesty helps," I said. He looked at me, sharp. "What does that mean?" he asked. I met his eyes. "It means stories collapse when facts arrive," I replied. Silence. Heavy. He swallowed. That told me everything. He stayed quiet the rest of the morning. Barely spoke. Barely moved. He left without saying goodbye. His mother sat at the table, hands folded, staring. I made tea, placed it in front of her. She looked up, tired. "Something's wrong," she said. I nodded. "Pressure reveals cracks," I replied. She didn't respond. Because she was starting to see. That night, he called. Not her. Me. That was new. I answered. His voice was low, tight. "I need to talk," he said. "Come over," I replied. He arrived an hour later. Quiet. Focused. He sat. Didn't waste time. "They're digging," he said. I nodded. "They're talking to people," he added. I nodded again. "They're asking about decisions," he said. I stayed silent. "They think I forced someone's hand," he continued. He looked at me, desperate. "I didn't mean it like that," he said. That sentence. That phrasing. "I didn't mean it like that," means he knows how it looks. I leaned forward. Just slightly. "Intent doesn't erase impact," I said. He stared. "That's not fair," he said. I nodded. "Neither is pressure," I replied. He ran a hand through his hair. Agitated. "What do I do?" he asked. Not, "What should I do?" What do I do? That's fear. I looked at him. Come. Steady. "You tell the truth," I said. He shook his head. They won't understand, he said. I leaned back. They don't need to understand, I replied. They need to see. He closed his eyes. That was despair. He sat there, silent, breathing uneven. I waited. Because when people are breaking, you don't interrupt. After a long moment, he said, I never thought it would go this far. I nodded. Most people don't, I said. He looked at me. You think I'm a bad person? He asked. That question. That was new. I considered. I think you're a man who hasn't been told no enough, I said. He looked away. That hurt. Because it was true. He didn't argue. That told me it landed. He left shortly after. Not angry. Not defensive. Empty. His mother didn't ask that night. She was quiet. Reflective. The house felt different. Not tense. Heavy. And I knew. This was just the beginning. Because consequences don't arrive in waves. They arrive in layers. And his first layer had just settled. The first time his name was said in that room, he knew he was no longer in control. He didn't tell us. Not immediately. Because humiliation is harder to admit than failure. But I could see it. In his posture. In his voice. In the way he avoided eye contact. He started arriving late at night. Quiet. Trying not to be seen. Like a man sneaking into his own life. His mother noticed. Why are you coming so late? She asked. He shrugged. Busy. Busy is what people say when they don't want to explain. He stopped using the living room. Stopped spreading papers. Stopped talking. He stayed in the guest room. Door closed. Lights off. Isolation is not privacy. It's retreat. One evening, I heard him on the phone. Low voice. Sharp tone. I didn't do that, he said. Pause. No, that's not what happened, he added. Longer pause. I never said that, he said. His voice cracked. Just a little. That told me everything. People only crack when their story is challenged. He hung up. Stood still. Then sat. Hard. I didn't move. Didn't approach. Didn't speak. Because this wasn't my moment. It was his. The next day, his mother received a call. She didn't answer it. She stared at the phone. Then looked at me. It's his company, she said. Her voice was tight. I nodded. She answered. Listened. Didn't speak. Her face changed. Yes, she said. Yes, I understand. Pause. I'll let him know, she said. And hung up. She looked at me. Confused. Afraid. They want to talk to him, she said. I nodded. When? I asked. Today, she replied. She swallowed. I saw it. The shift. The fear. The realization. This was no longer a small issue. He came down later. Saw her face. Knew. They called, didn't they? He asked. She nodded. He exhaled. Hard. Of course they did, he muttered. He looked at me. Just for a second. Then away. They want to meet, she said. He nodded. Figures, he replied. He grabbed his jacket. Hands shaking. I'll handle it, he said. He didn't look confident. He looked resigned. He left. Without another word. The house stayed quiet. Too quiet. His mother paced. Saturday. Stood. Sat again. I made coffee. Set it down. She didn't touch it. Do you think he's in trouble? She asked. I chose my words. I think he's being seen, I said. She frowned. What does that mean? She asked. It means people are paying attention, I replied. She didn't like that. No one does. He came back hours later. Not angry. Not loud. Broken. His shoulders were slumped. his eyes dull, his movements slow. He closed the door, stood there, didn't move. His mother rushed to him. "What happened?" she asked. He didn't answer. She touched his arm. He flinched. "Talk to me," she pleaded. He swallowed. "They know," he said. Her face froze. "Know what?" she whispered. He didn't respond. I spoke. "Quiet." "Know what?" I repeated. He looked at me. Long. "Everything," he said. That word. Everything. His mother gasped. "How?" she asked. He laughed. Once. Short. Bitter. "Because people talk," he said. He sat. Hard. "They spoke to him," he added. "Who?" she asked. He hesitated. "The one I pushed," he said. Her eyes widened. "You pushed someone?" she asked. He closed his eyes. "Not physically," he said. "Professionally." That was a confession. He looked at me. Defeated. "I didn't think he'd say anything," he said. That sentence. That revealed everything. He never thought of consequences. Only outcomes. He continued. "They brought up emails," he said. "Meetings. Messages." He shook his head. "They have everything," he whispered. His mother sat. Slowly. "Are you in trouble?" she asked. He nodded. "Serious?" she asked. He didn't answer. Silence again. Loud. I leaned back. Watched. He rubbed his face. "They think I manipulated him," he said. I nodded. "Did you?" I asked. He didn't respond. That was answer enough. His mother looked at him. Hurt. "You told me you were just under pressure," she said. He didn't meet her eyes. "I was," he replied. "That doesn't excuse it," she said. Her voice was firm. First time. He looked up. Surprised. She had never spoken like that to him. That mattered. He stood. Agitated. "You don't understand," he said. She didn't back down. "Then explain," she replied. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Nothing came out. Because there was nothing clean to say. He turned to me. Almost instinctively. As if I could save him. I didn't. I stayed quiet. Because this was not my battle. It was his reckoning. He looked away. Defeated. "They're calling a review panel," he said. Her face drained. "A panel?" she repeated. He nodded. "That's bad, isn't it?" she asked. He nodded again. "They don't do panels for nothing," he said. She covered her mouth. I watched. Because this was the consequence. Not the punishment. The exposure. He wasn't powerful anymore. He was visible. He sat. Head in hands. "I don't know what to do," he whispered. That sentence. That was the fall. I finally spoke. Not loud. Not harsh. "You face it," I said. He looked up. "That's it?" he asked. I nodded. "Truth has a way of arriving," I replied. He stared. Then laughed. Soft. Bitter. "Funny," he said. "What?" I asked. "I thought I was in control," he said. I didn't answer. Because he wasn't. And he never had been. That night, he didn't sleep. Neither did his mother. I did. Because when things are moving correctly, there is no reason to be restless. The moment he looked at me for help, I knew the power had finally changed hands. He didn't ask directly. Pride wouldn't allow it. But I saw it. In his eyes. In the hesitation. In the way his voice softened when he spoke to me. He had never softened before. That morning, he came into the kitchen slowly. No phone in his hand. No confidence in his walk. He stood there. Waiting. His mother was already tense. I was calm. He cleared his throat. "Do you know anyone?" he asked. I didn't look up. "Know anyone for what?" I replied. He hesitated. "Legal," he said. "Short. Careful." I nodded. "Maybe," I said. That one word. Maybe. It unsettled him, because he was used to certainty, used to control. He shifted his weight. "They're serious," he added. I stirred my coffee. "They usually are," I replied. He exhaled. Hard. "I didn't think it would go this far," he said. I looked at him. "Come. Steady." "Most people don't," I said. His jaw tightened. He didn't like that answer. But he needed me. And that changed everything. His mother watched us. Nervous. "Can you help him?" she asked. Her voice was hopeful. I looked at her. Then back at him. "Help how?" I asked. He swallowed. "Connections," he said. "Advice. Something. That word. People use it when they don't know what they need. Only that they are afraid." I nodded slowly. "I can make a call," I said. His shoulders dropped. Relief. "Thank you," he said quickly. Too quickly. Desperation leaks. I raised a finger. "One call," I added. He froze. "Just one?" he asked. I nodded. "That's all you get," I replied. He didn't argue. Because beggars don't negotiate. I stepped away, went to the other room, closed the door, and smiled. Not because I enjoyed his fear, but because the board was finally set. I didn't call a lawyer. I called someone else. Someone quiet. Someone observant. Someone patient. The kind of person who listens more than they speak. The call was short, precise. "I need a favor," I said. He replied. "You still keep records?" he asked. I smiled. "Always," I replied. "Send me everything," he said. "I already did," I answered. There was a pause. Then a low whistle. "Interesting," he said. "Very," I replied. I ended the call, and returned to the kitchen. He looked at me immediately. "Did you call?" he asked. I nodded. "Yes," I replied. "Good?" he asked. I met his eyes. "Depends," I said. He frowned. "On what?" he asked. "On how honest you've been," I replied. His face stiffened. "I told you everything," he said. I didn't react. "Did you?" I asked. He opened his mouth, closed it, then spoke. "Yes," he said. The delay mattered. His mother didn't notice. I did. That afternoon, he received an email. He read it once. Then again. His face changed. "What?" his mother asked. "They scheduled the panel," he said. "When?" she asked. "Soon," he replied. Soon is never good. He sat, rubbing his hands together. "They're bringing in an external reviewer," he added. Her eyes widened. "Is that bad?" she asked. He nodded. "That's very bad," he said. I leaned back. "Why?" I asked. He looked at me. "Because it means they don't trust internal reports," he replied. I nodded. "Means they want the truth," I said. He looked away. The word truth unsettled him. That evening, he didn't eat. He barely spoke. He kept checking his phone, waiting for something or someone. Nothing came. Silence is loud when you're guilty. Later, he approached me. Slow. Careful. "Can we talk?" he asked. I nodded. We sat across from each other. He didn't look at me at first. "I didn't mean for it to go this way," he said. I waited. "I was just trying to protect myself," he added. I nodded. "That's what everyone says," I replied. He flinched. "I'm not a bad person," he said. I looked at him. "Good people don't usually need to say that," I replied. Silence. Heavy. He finally looked up. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. That question. That was new. I held his gaze. "Because I believe in consequences," I said. He frowned. "That doesn't sound like help," he replied. I smiled faintly. "It depends on how you see it," I said. He didn't respond. Because deep down, he already knew. This was no longer about saving him. It was about revealing him. And he was starting to feel it. That night, I wrote. Quietly. Carefully. I didn't write accusations. I wrote timelines. Facts. Patterns. Dates. Emails. Names. Not revenge. Record. Because truth doesn't need emotion. It only needs structure. And I had been structuring this for a long time. He slept poorly. Tossed. Turned. I slept well. Because the turning point had passed. He just didn't know it yet. The day he asked me to sit beside him, I knew he finally understood who was really in control. He didn't say it directly. He never did. He hovered. Near the doorway. Near the table. Near me. People circle when they are unsure. Predators stalk. The fearful drift. He drifted. "Can I sit here?" he asked. He was already standing beside my chair. I nodded. "Of course," I said. He sat. Carefully. Like the chair might reject him. His mother watched. Confused. He leaned in slightly. Lowered his voice. "I got another message," he said. I didn't look at him. "From who?" I asked. "The reviewer," he replied. I nodded. "What did it say?" I asked. He hesitated. "They want personal statements," he said. "From everyone involved." That sentence landed. I felt his tension beside me. "That's normal," I replied. He exhaled. Not relieved. Worried. "They asked about influence," he added. I turned. Looked at him. "Influence," I repeated. He nodded. "Power dynamics," he said. I leaned back. "That's interesting," I replied. He swallowed. "Why?" he asked. "Because that's not about performance," I said. "It's about behavior." He stiffened. "I didn't abuse my position," he said quickly. Too quickly. I met his eyes. "Didn't you?" I asked. He looked away. That was answer enough. Later that day, he didn't go out. Didn't take calls. Didn't leave the house. He stayed near me. Not close. But close enough. Like a man staying near a lifeboat. At one point, he asked, "Have you spoken to anyone else?" he said. I raised an eyebrow. "About what?" I asked. He shifted. "About me," he replied. I considered him. Then answered truthfully. "Yes," I said. His face changed. "To who?" he asked. I paused. "Someone who keeps records," I replied. He stared. "Records of what?" he asked. I held his gaze. "Patterns," I said. His jaw tightened. "I don't like how that sounds," he said. I nodded. "Neither do most people," I replied. He stood. Paced. Then stopped. "You're not trying to hurt me, are you?" he asked. That question. That was fear. Not concern. Fear. I answered calmly. "No," I said. He relaxed slightly. "I'm trying to be honest," I added. He stiffened again. Honesty scares the dishonest. That evening, his mother approached me. Quiet. Concerned. "He's not himself," she said. I nodded. "He's becoming himself," I replied. She frowned. "What does that mean?" she asked. "It means pressure reveals shape," I said. She didn't understand. She just knew something was wrong. And she was right. The next morning, he was already dressed. Sitting. Waiting. For me. Morning, he said. Morning, I replied. He cleared his throat. I was thinking, he said. I waited. Maybe I should tell them everything, he added. That was new. I looked at him. Everything, I repeated. He nodded. Full honesty, he said. I studied his face. That wasn't courage. That was strategy. Why now? I asked. He shrugged. Clean slate, he said. I nodded. Truth isn't a reset button, I replied. He frowned. What do you mean? He asked. It's a mirror, I said. He didn't like that. Because mirrors don't change what they reflect. He leaned in. If I'm honest, will it help? He asked. I paused. Help who? I replied. He hesitated. Me, he said. I nodded slowly. It might help them, I said. He blinked. Them? He asked. The people you affected, I replied. His face tightened. What about me? He asked. I looked at him. This isn't about you anymore, I said. That sentence hit hard. He leaned back. Silent. Processing. That afternoon, a letter arrived. Physical. Official. He opened it with shaking hands. Read it. Once. Twice. His breathing changed. What is it? His mother asked. He didn't answer. He handed it to me. I read it. Then gave it back. They want testimony, I said. His face drained. From who? She asked. From him, I replied. She looked at her son. Testimony, she repeated. He nodded. They're formalizing it, he said. Her hand went to her chest. Oh my God, she whispered. He sat, head down. I can't lose this, he said. I watched him. You already lost something, I replied. He looked up. What? He asked. Respect, I said. He flinched. That word cut deeper than fear. Because respect is harder to earn than power. He stood, angry, frustrated. This is unfair, he said. I remained seated. Unfair is a strong word, I replied. He pointed. You don't understand, he said. I looked at him. I understand consequences, I said. He froze. Silence again. He turned away, ran his hands through his hair. I should never have trusted anyone, he muttered. That sentence. That told me everything. He didn't regret what he did. He regretted being seen. I stood, slow. Trust wasn't your mistake, I said. He looked at me. Character was, I added. He didn't respond. Because there was nothing left to defend. That night, he didn't come home. His mother waited. Worried. I wasn't. Because when people run, it means the ground beneath them is moving. And it was. He returned late. Eyes red. Voice tight. They have more, he said. More what? She asked. Evidence, he replied. I nodded. Of course they do, I said. He looked at me. How do you always sound so sure? He asked. I met his eyes. Because I never guess, I replied. Silence. Heavy. He sat, defeated. And for the first time since I knew him, he looked small. Not weak. Small. And that is the true turning point. Because when power shrinks, truth grows. When he finally asked me for guidance, I knew the scales had shifted, and I had already won. He came in the next morning. Not rushed. Not confident. Just careful. Like a man walking on cracked ice. He didn't greet me immediately. Just stood by the table. Hands fidgeting. Eyes avoiding mine. His mother hovered in the kitchen doorway. Silent. Worried. He cleared his throat. "I need your advice," he said. That phrasing mattered. Not help. Not support. Advice. Because advice implies he can still act. But he couldn't. I nodded slowly. "Of course," I said. He sat. Posture stiff. Fingers drumming lightly on the table. "They've scheduled a review," he said. I didn't react. "They're asking for statements from everyone," he added. I leaned back. Truth?" I asked. He nodded. "Yes." I sipped my coffee. He didn't move. "I don't know how to handle it," he said. That was the admission I was waiting for. "I think you already know," I replied. He looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" he asked. "Actions have consequences," I said. "And you've been exposed." He leaned back. Silent. Breathing uneven. He realized it. Not the threat. Not the review. But me. I didn't need to act. I didn't need to threaten. I simply existed. Because presence carries weight. And he finally felt it. He ran a hand through his hair. Exhaled. Sat quietly. "Why are you helping me?" he asked. I looked at him. Not too long. Not too short. "Because the right people should know the truth," I said. He flinched. Not out of fear. But understanding. That understanding is heavier than fear. It crushes ego quietly. He didn't respond. "I've been patient," I said. "And I'm still patient." He swallowed hard. "I see that," he whispered. That was all he could manage. I watched him struggle with his pride. Because pride, once stripped, leaves only decisions. He exhaled again. "I will cooperate," he said. Not bravely. Not confidently. Only truthfully. And that mattered. He called the panel. Sent the statements. Revealed every shortcut. Every manipulation. Every lie he thought was hidden. I didn't interfere. I just let the truth work. His mother looked on, stunned. "I don't know if he's learning or just scared," she said. I smiled faintly. "Both," I replied. The external reviewer called. Everything he feared came to light. He watched, powerless, silent, small. I saw it in him. The moment he understood. He had been maneuvered, not by force, not by me, but by the inevitability of consequences. And that is the essence of quiet revenge. Not anger, not violence, not exposure for show, but patience, observation, structure, and letting life deliver its own justice. He finally looked at me, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. "I didn't expect this," he said. "You should have," I replied calmly. That evening, he left early. No words. No protests. Just the quiet retreat of a man who knows he has been outmaneuvered. His mother looked at me. "Did you?" she asked. "I did nothing," I said. Because that is the point. The turning point isn't action. It's allowing the structure you built to deliver the lesson. And in that lesson, he learned more than fear. He learned consequence. He learned humility. He learned that shortcuts and manipulation eventually meet reality. That night, I sat alone, drinking coffee, reflecting, and realized patience is more powerful than anger, observation more effective than force, truth stronger than any strategy. When the results came back, he realized that sometimes the only punishment is being fully seen. The morning arrived quietly. No fanfare. No announcements. His mother had left early. Worried. Nervous. He lingered in the living room, pacing. Hands in pockets. Eyes fixed somewhere far away. I sipped my coffee. Sat across from him. Steady. He finally spoke. "I got the report," he said. I nodded. From the panel? I asked. He exhaled. Yes, he replied. I leaned forward slightly. And? I asked. He swallowed. Everything's documented, he said. I nodded. Not impressed. Not congratulatory. Documentation is not victory. It's truth. He sat heavily, head in hands. I didn't think it would be this thorough, he added. That sentence told me everything. He thought exposure could be partial, incomplete, manageable. But he had been seen fully. Every email, every meeting, every shortcut, every lie, every manipulation, all of it. His mother walked in, noticing the tension. What does it say? She asked. He looked at her. Expression drained. They have the full picture, he said. Her face went pale. I watched silently, because the moment of realization doesn't need commentary. He stayed seated, silent, barely breathing. Finally, he muttered, I guess I have to face it now. Yes, I said simply. The word landed, heavy. For months, he had run on assumptions. Shortcuts, avoidance, control. Now he had none. He finally understood. No one needs to force consequences. Truth delivers them. His mother looked at him, concerned, confused, frightened. I've seen it coming, I said quietly. He glanced at me, eyes wide. Coming? He asked. Yes, I said. Just not in the way you expected. Silence again, heavy. That afternoon, the company contacted him. Formal, precise, structured. They laid out exactly what they had found. Not with anger, not with cruelty. Just facts, evidence, consequences. He listened, head down, hands clasped. Not a word of defense. Not immediately. Because defense is meaningless once truth is visible. He realized that the structures he had manipulated, the systems he had bent, had their own integrity. And integrity does not bend for anyone. Later, he walked out. Quiet, heavy. He didn't argue, didn't protest, didn't justify. Even his mother could tell. He had been humbled, fully. And I didn't need to do anything. Because quiet patience works better than action. Weeks passed. He returned to the house occasionally. Silent, observant, reflective, not confident, not arrogant, but aware. The external reviewer completed their process. Recommendations were made. Corrections issued. He faced them. Without complaint. Without arrogance. And that, I realized, was the most important outcome. He had learned. Not from punishment. Not from fear. From seeing consequences clearly. And acting within them. His mother finally exhaled. I think he's changed, she said softly. I nodded. Yes, I said. Enough to be careful next time. He didn't look at me. Didn't need to. Because the lesson had already settled in his mind. That evening, he stayed longer than usual. Quiet. Thoughtful. Reflective. He asked questions, not excuses. Not defenses. How should I approach this? He asked. I gave guidance. Careful. Minimal. Because teaching responsibility is more important than shielding. He nodded. And for the first time in months, moved with purpose. Not to hide. Not to manipulate. Not to run. But to face reality. That is the essence of resolution. Not revenge. Not humiliation. Just clarity. And clarity is stronger than anger. By the end of the week, the tension had eased. The review had ended. The consequences were clear. He had survived. And that was enough. Because justice, when structured and patient, doesn't need emotion. It only needs truth. When they finally called him in to discuss the outcome, He realized that silence and patience could have taught him more than any threat ever could. The day arrived quietly. No one rushed. No one shouted. He entered the office. Slow. Careful. Eyes downcast. The panel sat. Professional. Neutral. Observant. Not a word of anger. Not a hint of malice. Only structure. Facts. Evidence. He spoke minimally. Measured. Careful. And listened more than he spoke. They outlined everything. Every shortcut. Every manipulation. Every decision he thought was hidden. Every action had been documented. Every consequence lined up clearly. He flinched. Not out of fear. Not out of surprise. But from understanding the weight of being fully visible. The panel asked questions. Direct. Precise. He answered honestly. Not confidently. Not proudly. Just honestly. That honesty was new. It had been months since he had spoken with such clarity. His mother watched silently from the hallway. Even she could see the change. Not complete. Not sudden. But visible. When the review ended, they handed him a formal summary. Recommendations. Corrective actions. Guidance. Not punishment. Not revenge. Just truth. He read it. Twice. Then exhaled. For the first time in months, he sat back. No panic. No denial. Only reflection. He called me later that day. Everything, it's clear now, he said. I nodded quietly. Yes, I replied. Do you think I handled it correctly? He asked. I considered him carefully. Correctly is not the word, I said. Honestly. Responsibly. That's the word. He was silent for a long moment. I see that now, he said. He sounded smaller. Not defeated. Not broken. Just aware. That awareness is the point. Because consequences don't need anger. They need clarity. Over the next few days, he adjusted. Small gestures. Measured decisions. Careful words. Even his mother noticed. Something's different, she said. I nodded. Yes, I said. He's learning. He called the panel once more. Clarified. Corrected. Accepted responsibility. Every step of the way, he did not complain. Did not blame. Did not hide. He simply acted within the truth. And that is the essence of resolution. Not punishment. Not revenge. But learning. Growth. Recognition of consequence. By the end of the week, the atmosphere had shifted. He was no longer tense. No longer defensive. He walked taller. Not proud. Not arrogant. Just aware. And that awareness is more powerful than any victory. Because he had been humbled. And he had grown. That evening, he stayed longer than usual. Quiet. Thoughtful. Reflective. He asked questions. Not excuses. Not defenses. How do I ensure this doesn't happen again? He asked. I gave guidance. Minimal. Careful. Because teaching responsibility is better than shielding from consequence. He nodded. And for the first time in months, acted with purpose. Not to hide. Not to manipulate. Not to run. But to face reality. And that is the quiet justice of patience. By the time he finally left the office that evening, he understood that the consequences he feared were never imposed. They were revealed. He walked slowly out of the building. Head slightly bowed. Eyes alert. He didn't speak immediately. His mother was waiting. Everything done? She asked softly. He nodded. Did they punish you? She asked, voice trembling. No, he said quietly. Her eyes widened. Then, what happened? She asked. He paused. They saw everything, he replied. Everything I tried to hide. Everything I tried to control. That sentence carried weight. Not punishment. Not revenge. but clarity, exposure, consequence. He exhaled. For the first time in months, he felt small, but not broken. He understood. The lesson had arrived. That evening, he returned home. Silent at first. Thoughtful. Not defensive. Not arrogant. His mother watched. "I think I understand now," he said. I nodded. "That's the first step," I said. He looked at me. "First step?" he asked. "Yes," I replied. "Seeing truth is the first step. Accepting it is the next. Acting responsibly is the final." He absorbed that. Later, he called his colleagues. Clarified statements. Corrected miscommunications. He didn't argue. Didn't evade. He faced the consequences. His mother noticed the change. "He's different," she said. "Yes," I said. Accountable. Observant. Humble. That humility mattered. Not because he was punished, but because he had been exposed. And exposure is more powerful than punishment. Over the next weeks, he acted carefully. Measured. Thoughtful. Small improvements in behavior. Better decisions. Not perfection. Not arrogance. Just responsibility. By the time the external review closed, he had transformed. Not because anyone forced him, but because reality always has a way of teaching lessons. And those who ignore it eventually pay attention. He had learned. And in that learning, justice had quietly unfolded. His mother exhaled. Relief mixed with pride. "I think he's truly learned," she said softly. I nodded. "Yes," I said. "He has." That evening, we sat quietly, coffee in hand, watching the world move around us. No anger. No revenge. No malice. Only reflection. Because that is the power of quiet justice. Truth delivered naturally. Lessons absorbed. Growth achieved. And sometimes that is enough. When he finally looked at me without fear, I realized that the lesson had been learned, not through anger, but through patience. The days that followed were quiet. No rush. No tension. Just ordinary life. He moved through the house differently. Not with arrogance. Not with defiance. But with awareness. Even his mother noticed. "She's changed," she said. I raised an eyebrow. "She?" I asked. "Sorry," she replied, smiling faintly. "He seems aware now. Thoughtful. That awareness is what matters." He no longer sought shortcuts. No longer hid mistakes. He acted carefully. Measured. Responsible. Not perfectly. Not proudly. Just responsibly. We didn't speak about the panel much. No lectures. No reminders. Because the lessons were already absorbed. I watched him interact with others. Honest. Straightforward. Cautious. And that mattered more than any punishment could. One evening, he came to me. "Thank you," he said quietly. I looked up. "For what?" I asked. "For not interfering. For letting me face it," he said. I nodded. "That's the point," I said. He absorbed that quietly. "You could have made it worse," he added. I smiled faintly. "I didn't need to," I said. "Truth has a way of finding its own path." He looked at me carefully. "Yeah," he said softly. "Seems like it." And that is the essence of calm revenge. Not shouting. Not shaming. Just patience. Observation. Structure. Allowing consequences to unfold naturally. Allowing truth to reveal itself. Over time, he grew. He learned humility. Accountability. He understood that power is fleeting. Truth is enduring. And that is a lesson worth more than any anger-fueled victory. We sat together quietly that night, watching the world, drinking coffee. No words were necessary. The lesson had settled. The peace had arrived. And in that quiet moment, I realized. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't retaliation. It's letting life deliver its own justice. And sometimes, the strongest victory is simply patience. Truthful, quiet, inevitable. When he finally admitted his mistakes without excuses, I knew the lesson had truly taken hold. He moved through the house with a quiet presence now. No rushing. No tension. Even small gestures felt deliberate. Opening doors. Listening carefully. Speaking softly. His mother noticed the change. "He's different," she whispered to me one evening. "Yes," I said. "Smaller, perhaps. But wiser." The smallest recognition often carries the most weight. One afternoon, he approached me. "Can I ask something?" he said. "Of course," I replied. "How do you stay so calm?" he asked quietly. I smiled faintly. "Calm comes from patience," I said. "From letting things unfold naturally." He nodded slowly. "Even when people make mistakes?" he asked. "Especially then," I replied. He absorbed that silently. Later, he came to me again. "Do you forgive me?" he asked. That question mattered, not because I had been wronged, but because he needed closure. I nodded. "Yes," I said. "Because forgiveness is not about them," I explained. "It's about letting yourself move forward." He exhaled, a deep breath I could hear. And in that moment, I realized. The revenge had been quiet, but the peace was louder. Over the following weeks, he continued to act carefully. Measured. Observant. Thoughtful. Not perfect. Not flawless. But growing. Learning. He spoke less of blame. More of responsibility. And that mattered more than any punishment could have. His mother smiled more often now. "Even to me," she said. "I think he's really learning. Truly understanding." I nodded. "Yes," I said. "Consequences aren't always immediate. Sometimes they're quiet, slow, but effective." The house felt lighter. No tension. No fear. Only reflection. Growth. Awareness. And that is the essence of true resolution. Not forcing change. Not humiliating. But allowing life, truth, and consequence to teach their lessons naturally. That night, I looked at him. He was reading quietly. Focused. A little smaller than before. But stronger. Because strength is not arrogance. It is awareness. And awareness is earned quietly. No shouting. No fury. Just truth.